I know, these are the days I know. Oh, we're starting now, right?
Yeah. That's when the numbers get smaller.
Yeah. I was thinking about what is a countdown. Okay. This is the Daves I know. That is Dave Cox.
That's Dave Woodard.
Hey.
And that's Jonathan Jeter on the other side of the screen.
What's happening, man?
All right.
Not much.
Yeah, we've got Jonathan Jeter with us from Jonathan Jeter and the Revelators, his namesake band, plus drummer for Reverend Horton Heat. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I was just cranking some Horton Heat on the way here.
Were you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I knew we were going to be interviewing you. I was like, and it's been a while. I haven't listened to Horton Heat in a little bit. So how long have you been playing? How long have you been playing drums for them, man?
I've been playing in the band now for about 3.5 years.
Excellent.
It's kind of a product of COVID. Like the
Sure.
previous drummer didn't want to do some of the the limited seating engagements and stuff that we were still doing, and
Right.
so we had the infamous Sturgis come up, and Jim called me on, like, I guess it was Thursday, and he was like, we're talking logistical stuff because I'm still the tour manager as well, and he wanted to talk about flights
shit.
and all that.
Double duty. You double duty.
Oh
and
yeah.
Shit.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
And so he's, I'm telling him what time we're flying out on Saturday and all this, and he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're playing drums on Saturday as well, and we're gonna rehearse. We're gonna rehearse tomorrow at like 11. So you've got like, I don't know, 12 hours to learn like 22 songs." And I was like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
okay,
No pressure at all.
yeah."
Easy.
But we flew up there and did it, and that particular one was, it was during. It's kind of the tail end of the pandemic, but it was still catching a lot of flack. And so my first gig with the band, we made TMZ for. So that
Jesus Christ. Thank God for TMZ, right?
Right, right.
They seem to wreck, they seem to ruin, or no, they usually just ruin careers, don't they?
Yeah, because it was like us and Smash Mouth they wanted to talk about from that event, and I was like, oh man,
that's been my lifelong dream to be mentioned in the same sentence.
Yeah, they're talking about us and Smash Mouth. Forget about it. Mom, I finally made it.
Things are looking up for me now.
So they were.
But
they were giving you shit for playing? Is that what you were saying? Is it?
Yeah. They were kind of giving us giving a shit for playing at Sturgis, which they called a super spreader event or whatever.
Oh, Jesus. Did it end up being a big super spreader thing? It didn't, did it?
No. Yeah.
So nobody called it the new flu.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Basically what it is. I mean, I'm not an anti-science guy, but it's like I think things were taken a little too far there when you know what I mean. Especially towards the end of this shit. It was like, yeah, we're wrapping this shit up. We're done.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was so many tours that we had lined up that that didn't happen, and it was just a crazy time. Well, obviously a crazy time for everybody, but trying to navigate that, and when you've made your whole living for 20 years in the music business, you're like, oh, what do we do now?
Did you notice that when the Ukraine war started, COVID just magically disappeared? Oh, shut up! There's a war now. Well, we can move to something else. Sorry.
That's right.
But it's funny. Like I see more people, like more friends of mine are like getting it now than ever.
Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, that was a weird time. I when right around that time when Sturgis was going on, I had gotten tickets to see Bill Burr, his stand-up show, and it was going to be at the AT&T Performing Arts Center, but because of all that crazy shit, they had it on that stage outside the Performing Arts Center.
Oh yeah.
And then they had these fucking circles on the grass out there. And so we happened to have tickets kind of on this loft on the side, like these, fancy tickets.
Yeah.
They had the tables really far apart, and then you look out onto the lawn where he was, and there were these like 6-foot circles, and if you had tickets, you go huddle in your own circle. And it was in like November, so it was 45 degrees outside. And Bill's a surly dude anyway.
Yeah, for sure. He's good.
He complained the entire time, and it's right by the expressway. So he's like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Look at I get to hear a bunch of fucking motorcycles going by now."
He is hilarious. Like I think he did a stand up. I think it was in I want to say it was in Philadelphia. And everybody was just being totally shitty to all the other comedians. He came out and ragged on them. I can't remember if it was Philadelphia or somewhere in New Jersey, but maybe it was somewhere in New Jersey. But he sat there and ragged on them his whole 15 minutes. He's like, fuck, I got 3 minutes left. You're going to get more. Like, he's just like more and more. Yeah, I like Bill Burr, man. I liked him a lot, dude.
Go ahead.
I had a pretty interesting interaction with him. Well, not really an interaction, but it was kind of a crossing of paths. We were in Minneapolis at First Avenue, and we were playing there that night with the Toadies, and the backstage, like the garage area there, they still got like, you know, a replica of Prince's bike from Purple Rain and all that stuff. And Prince's parking spot still like roped off. Well, Bill Burr was at the Target Center that night, and I guess somebody had brought him in to see all the Prince stuff back there. So I'm back there tearing down my drum kit and stuff, and then all these SUVs come pulling in, and lo and behold, it's Bill Burr and all his entourage, and they're looking at all the Prince stuff, and right by the door, the back door to the venue, and a certain other band member who I won't name, like, just comes barreling out of that back door and like almost takes him totally out. Like they like tussle like for a second, like slammed right into Bill Burr, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit, that really just happened."
That place is awesome. I played there when I was singing in Billy Club. We were on tour with GBH, and we played that because there's a 7th Street entry and First Avenue.
Right.
The First Avenue is smaller, but we played the bigger place, and I kept remembering is like, they filmed Purple Rain here. That's all I kept thinking the whole time. Right. And then I watched their bass player beat the shit out of somebody that night. So
Nice.
the guy threw a drink on him, and he just beat the shit out of him. It was great. It was good.
Yeah, the history of that place is rad. Like, if you wander around backstage, like all the analog board tapes, like they have them all stuck up on the wall, and it's like Prince vocal, Prince guitar. I'm like, I'm a huge Prince nerd too, so I'm like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
It's fucking Prince, dude. Come on. Like, hey, man, purple is for Pimps, Wizards, and Prince.
Exactly.
So after that, the Sturgis gig where you learned all the songs and one rehearsal, is that when you stayed on? Like, did they offer you the gig then, or were you just filling in and then?
No, I was just filling in, and then I haven't gotten fired yet, so I guess it just kind of stuck. So
that's usually that's a good sign.
What's it like? What's it like TMing and being in the band at the same time? You can't say, well, the drummer said that he really wants to. I guess you could, but how do you juggle that?
Well, now I just talk about myself in the third person. I'm like, the drummer would like green M&Ms now. No, it kind of goes hand in hand, really, because I know what the guys want, myself included, and so it's a little more like straightforward. Whereas I've been on tours before where the TM has to constantly ask, like, oh, what do you want to do about this? What do you want to do about that? And since me and these dudes have been traveling together for so long, because I was Jim's guitar tech for 4 years before I started playing in the band. So. Okay. And so, I've been traveling with these guys for so long that, I kind of already know what they want and what needs to happen, and kind of keep them a little more hands off.
They're pretty. I mean, well, first of all, I love Reverend Horton Heat. I love Jim. I love Jimbo. When I was lucky enough, when I was an REO Speed Dealer, singing for REO Speed Dealer, we got to open up for them many, many times. Yeah. But I remember the first time I saw them, I think they had just signed to Sub Pop. So the first album wasn't even out yet. And I had never heard them, never really heard, like, I guess, quote unquote, psychobilly or whatever, rockabilly. So I was at Fry Street Fair on acid, multiple hits of acid, as you do at Fry Street Fair back then. And I just remember watching them, these three guys play, and I just remember, like, thinking, who the fuck who is this rockabilly Slayer band? Like, who is this, like, this speed metal rockabilly band? And people were like, oh, it's Reverend Horton. And I was like, who? Like, it like literally blew my fucking mind. And then I remember when I was in Speeder, I think we had a practice room right by them, some real shitty place in Irving. And this, I think the album had just come out. They were still touring in the van, the black van. And and that album came out, and I bought that album, and it's literally still one of my favorite albums to this day. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. I love that album, man.
Man, I almost dragged just over to other Dave's side. My upright bass is over there, and I almost dragged it over here to have behind us. Mainly because in the last episode there were several comments that our background looked like a hostage video. And my first thought was, I've never seen polka dot curtains.
I mean, I
hostage video.
I kind of like the look. I don't,
But man,
looks like this is like what COVID would look like.
Exactly. Yeah. Man, the first "I love you, man" moment I had with Jimbo was like early 2000s. I think we're playing opening for them at Ridgely Theater.
Nice.
And I just, as I did all the time back then, I just got shithoused after we were done. And then Jimbo was shithoused after they were done. And then we're packing up our gear, and he's like, Dave, come here. And he's like, us upright players got to stick together, man. And he's like, I love you. And then we're standing there just telling each other we loved each other. And I've got the most awkward fucking picture because he comes up to about here on me, and he's like snuggled up.
Oh yeah,
I'll put that on the screen for the YouTube.
You're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to do that.
So Reverend getting ready to head out on the road.
Yeah, we've been doing the last, I guess about 3 months, just a lot of fly dates and one-offs and stuff. We went to the UK for 4 shows, and then while we were there, did one in Belgium, and
Killer.
Came home, and then I guess that was about a month and a half ago, and then I just got home from Spain on Monday. We just went and played this big rockabilly festival over there called the Rockin' Race. Yeah, and that was pretty cool.
Very
it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to fly 10 hours somewhere to play one gig, but
at least you're in Spain, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys play in Belgium? Did you guys play Brussels or?
We played in a little town. Actually, it was called St. Nicholas, and it was a really cool little town and really cool venue, and the crowd was super receptive, but it was the same promoter that does this huge festival, the Shock Fest. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but anyway, this was the same promoter, so it was it was a good time. They took care of us. The food was much better there than in the UK.
In fact, I haven't seen Horton Heat in a long time. It's been quite a minute. The last time I saw Horton Heat was on a New Year's at Gas Monkey when that place was open, the big place, and he flew in Jello Biafra.
Oh,
and I always tripped out on the friendship because Jim is pretty right wing, as far as I remember of Jim. You know what I mean? I've talked to Jim multiple times, and Jello is not. But they're pretty good friends. I mean, it was a great show. They came up there and did they did a couple Horton Heat songs, they did a couple Dead Kennedy songs, and I went to go eat with Biafra after that. And he's a fucking weirdo. I love him. He's probably one of my favorite singers, but. He kept eating food off everybody's fucking plates, man. Literally just with his hands, are those garlic mashed potatoes? That's my really bad Jello Biafra impersonation.
Well, I like to think of him as he's like the punk rock Ethel Merman, there's no business like show business.
But he also kind of sounds like Fred Schneider from the B-52s. I got me a car, it's as big as a whale. He's just kind of all around. I don't know.
He was with us another New Year's Eve, and we were in Florida somewhere. And after the gig, somewhere along the way, me and Sean Bailey had picked up at a gas station the shittiest fireworks that you could possibly find, and
Baggins,
And so we were. Joe had brought all these friends on the bus, and it was getting a little punishing for everybody.
Sure.
We were ready to roll out, and so I was like, all right, everybody off the bus, it's fireworks show time. And so, everybody files off the bus, and I lock it, and then, set off the most lackluster fireworks known to man. It was boop. And we were like, all right, cool, see you guys. And we all filed back on the bus.
That's great, man. That just always tripped me out. I mean, which again, the whole reason we kind of started this podcast is we can have a little bit of a difference of opinions politically and stuff like that. And I don't think you get too much different than Jim and fucking Jello, because they're pretty fucking different when it comes to political issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, very much different.
But it still shows that you can still be friends with people that you don't agree with, that you can
Absolutely.
still. have a rapport. And just, I asked him, I was like, how are you guys such friends? You know, he's just like, well, we just don't talk politics much.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to that old adage, like, you know, you shouldn't talk politics or religion with your friends. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's, unless you're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And then, then it's okay.
And then all bets are off. Yeah.
Then it's
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah, Dave doesn't know this, but for the next episode we're recording, which is political, I've got like 20 pages of notes.
Shit. I've just been tattooing. I don't even know what I'm going to say. We've told ourselves that whatever subject matter we bring up, we're going to definitely like keep it organic. Like I was like, I don't want to know your thoughts on this subject because I want to just have it right then and there. Like, you know, just organic and natural, and because I don't want to go and like Google a bunch of stuff and have a bunch of stuff to say, and like I'd rather keep it just natural, man. Like I think it's
not saving up like CNN or Fox.
Yeah,
News.
little quips and little
gotchas, like
little,
hey.
Yeah, that shit. So I'm so sick of that shit, man. You know, and how's the like as far as I get back to the music stuff, as far as the tour goes, like how the crowd's been? They still been pretty receptive and
they're great, man. And you know what's really cool that's happening now is like, you know, the kids that came to shows with, you know, their parents and whatnot are now grown up, and now they're coming to the shows with their friends or kids.
Yeah.
And it just kind of really, you know, kind of goes to show how long those guys have been out there doing that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
but the crowds are great.
Playing Bar of Soap in the mid 90s. Right?
Yeah, man. I loved those shows. In fact, I love it when Jim just does just him. He just shows up, says, call him out. And people just call him out. But then some people call it Horton Heat stuff, but they call it like Johnny Cash songs, and like, and he'll just fucking play it. Like, it's like he's been playing it for all his life, and I think that's great. Jim's a really good dude, man. Like he's the good thing about him is he's always given, you know, any band that I've been in, he's always given us an opportunity to open up for them to help kind of like get a little bit of a crowd for the band. You know what I mean? Like he's always been real good like that. He's for local bands. Like he's always been really good like that. So.
And he's still doing that, you know, for different rockabilly guys. There's this guy out of Oklahoma, Jimmy Dale Richardson.
Yeah.
We played on a session with him. We're going to back him up actually at the Ameripolitans next weekend.
Oh, nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this guy Lance Lipinski down in Austin, we do. Jim's really good about pushing, his stuff out there too. And he's got a label now. He calls it more of a vanity label, but it's gaining traction. He's putting 45s and stuff out, and
very cool.
And 10 inches. You know, you don't see people putting out 10-inch records very often. So it's pretty rad.
10-inch albums. 10-inch albums are the shit, man. Yeah, I love those. They're almost kind of novelty, but they're just. A lot of people don't realize that those were the records back then. Those were 10-inch records were the records.
And you know, to get those printed in the stateside, there's only one company in the whole country that still prints 10 inches. So it's kind of interesting to get on there.
Is it
United?
United?
It's United. Yep.
Yeah, those guys are great. I've dealt with them before in other bands I've been in, just doing like just 7 inches and singles and stuff like that. Like, and those guys are those guys are on top of the game, and they've been doing that for a long time. United's been around for a long time, man.
Yeah.
So
during the pandemic when we weren't really working, Hand Drawn Records here in Dallas threw me a bone and like let me go work over there part time.
Sure.
So, you know, it's basically sweeping the floor and putting records in sleeves and stuff. But so I got to learn all about the record pressing industry while I was there with those guys, and they were super cool to take me in and let me do that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. I would come home with just a stack of records.
Sure.
Every week.
Of course you would.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Right.
At a record place. Hell yeah, dude. Give me all that vinyl.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, I've got
just to watch the process.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch too. It really is. I have I've been trying to figure out when to work this in, and this seems like the right time to do it. I have a linkage to a very specific Reverend Horton Heat song that goes back many, many years. So in 2001, I wanted to buy a classic car, and I was watching this 57 Ford 4-door on eBay, and it ended. It didn't bid high enough, blah, blah, blah. Just, long story short, I contacted the person in Austin. It's like, hey, what do you want to sell the car for? So she told me how much. Like, can I drive it home? And she's like, yeah, fly down one way. I'll pick you up at the airport. You can check the car out. If you like it, you can drive it anywhere. We've been driving it for years. And I was like, cool. So then I was talking to Rob Choppy shortly after and told him, hey, I'm going to pick up this Fairlane. He's like, oh, cool. Let me see a picture of it. And I showed him, and he's like, are you buying that from a chick named Kristen? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, dude, that's the $400 car. so I didn't know that. I just thought it was a cool car. So I took a Southwest flight to Austin, and Kristen picked me up at the airport.
It's a real cool car now.
Right, yeah. I put way more money than it's worth in it now. And Kristen picked me up, and I was like, hey, I realized we have some mutual friends, back in Dallas. And she's like, oh, yeah, who? And I said, you know Rob Choppy, right? And she's like, it's true, okay? It is that car. And then at our car show, so my car club does the Invasion car show.
Yeah.
In Deep Ellum every year. Invasion 16 coming up in October.
Hey,
October. And 3 or 4, maybe 4 years ago, you guys played at it, and I got buddy of mine drew $400, made a real cool like tattoo style painting on the glove box door, and got Jim to sign it. And then naturally, since it's my car club and our car show, I had my band open up the show too. That's what you got to do.
Of course, that's what you do. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. You guys, so you guys do have a tour coming up, or just kind of doing these little kind of one-off or like 3 or 4 show like weekends kind of stuff? Or
we do have a tour coming up at the end of the month. We're going to hit the West Coast for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And that one is going to be with Dale Watson and
nice.
Jason D. Williams. I don't know if you're hip to that guy or not, but he's very long story short, but he's an illegitimate son of Jerry Lee Lewis, and so he's looks just like him, plays piano like a wild man, and so that's going to be a pretty interesting tour.
Hell yeah!
I'm pretty looking forward to it. And I'm doing double duty on that one, so I'm playing drums with Jason D. and with Horton Heat. So.
Oh, nice.
2 bands, tour managing. You got your hands full there.
And driving. I'll do all the
driving
driving
too. Yeah. Fuck, let's throw another job in there.
Yeah. Well, up until about 2 years ago, I was selling merch too. Like I would literally hang out at the merch table until it was time to play, and then run up there and play, and then run right back.
Yeah.
In hot T-shirts, and finally we brought somebody in to do that. But.
Yeah, I was say, is that the rock star life you envisioned, where being TM and playing in multiple bands and doing the merch and all that?
In all its glory.
That's right.
Yeah. and having to pay a percentage of the club of merch.
Yeah.
Boy,
that's
a rough one right there. And I did a tour, and we did a pretty big tour, and I remember them going, "Oh, we got to count all this." I'm like, "Why?" Like, well, we take a percentage in the night. I'm like, "What?" Like, I just used to playing like shitty punk rock clubs. Like, I'm like, what do you mean you're taking a percentage? I was like, do we get a cut of the bar? Like, no. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, but I figured it out. I used to put shirts on my backpack, and I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and count all the shirts, man. And I just sell shirts out of my backpack. And then I got pretty good with the promoters at the end of the night. I would they would I was like, man, we only sold like 1 or 2 shirts. Like, don't worry about it. I'm like, sold like 20.
Right.
I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem, dude. Like, here's a case of beer. We feel bad for you. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, man, the band I wanted to definitely talk about, too, is Jonathan Jeter and the Revelators. So I know that band's been around for, 13, 14 years, maybe longer?
Yeah, about 15 years, I guess. It was a very different band then, though. I was kind of going for more of the alt country kind of vibe then, and was playing more of that circuit, which inadvertently kind of got me lumped in with the, what was happening then of that red dirt country scene, which led to massive burnout on my end, because I'm like, fuck all these bands. Like, I don't, I don't play pretty boy country music, it's
almost like it's almost just like pop music with a twang to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even really country. Like,
it didn't really jive, but I was trying then to really push that Americana vibe, and I was also trying to kind of get my name out there as a songwriter in Nashville. So I was going to Nashville every month for at least 3 or 4 days, or try to route through on tour or whatever, and that all just was so overwhelming. And I had booking, and management and everything, but I just didn't. They were kind of running me into the ground, and so I got home from a tour right before Christmas, and just fired everybody. Like, fired the band, fired agent, fired the manager, everybody, and didn't play music again for a couple of years. I just was so burned out.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Man, this new incarnation of the band is fucking amazing too.
It's ripping, man.
Really,
you know,
yeah.
we brought in Brandon Callie's the bass player, and we've known each other for 20 plus years, and so when we put this band together this time, this version of it, it was we really wanted to bring in. There was a certain look and sound that we really wanted, and luckily we were able to bring in some buddies that fit those parts, and it's
good.
It's working. Yeah.
I remember talking to Garrett, and it was I don't know if he had already played a show with you guys or if he was about to play his first one, but he was talking about the difference between what he does in Dog Company, and then he's like, I'm just blasting away at the strings at Dog Company. Now I have to be subtle and do different stuff. And he was like, for as nervous as he gets, because he doesn't get nervous, but,
right?
But he's like, man, it's been so different, and he's had to learn focus more on finesse and style and all that. So it was fascinating watching him talk about that, going from Dog Company, like, street punk band, to what you guys are doing. And I know people hate having their bands compared to other bands, but you kind of can't help it. But like when I listened to some of y'all's recordings, especially the newer, single that came out last year, and there was one a year or two before that, like I kind of, from the studio recordings, I kind of heard a little bit of Lucero, but then the live show that I went to, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, it was like Hot Water Music. And that's the two things that at least that I hear, where it's got like that punk intensity, but the Americana structure and kind of sound and vocals behind it. So that's kind of what I pick up on anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Garrett's played in your band. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Garrett's a great dude.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
It was interesting. Like the guitar playing for all of us was kind of a learning curve, because I never played in a 3-guitar band before. So I play guitar and sing, then Garrett, and then Alex Martinez as well, playing guitar, and we 3 guitars, bass, drums, and all 5 of us sing too. So it's a very full sound.
It was like 38 special. There were like 18 drummers, 15 bass players, 27 guitar players, and a vocalist.
We're playing at 3 Links next Thursday, and I was just before I hopped on here, I was advancing the show and sending our stage plot over to the engineer, and I was like, man, I'm sure he's gonna get this and go, oh shit, 3 half stacks at a huge bass rig and a drum kit, and I got to mic 5 vocals, but and we're the first of 3 bands, so I'm sure they're gonna
no backline there. We're taking our time taking this shit off, guys. That's great. I love that.
So what went into the kind of the style shift from kind of the early part of the Revelators to when you got it going again? Was it a conscious effort to make it more raw so that you didn't get lumped in a weird genre again, or was it was it deliberate, or did it just kind of evolve with your songwriting and playing and all that?
A little bit of both, because I mean, like, initially when I always grew up a punk rock guy, and like whenever I initially started writing in like the Americana format or whatever, it was kind of at the time when when aging punk rock dudes like were going to playing folk music, like Chuck Reagan and Lucero. I mean, Ben Nichols is in a punk band before Lucero, and it just kind of fit. And then once we were formatting, like when I started writing again for this specific version of the project, I kind of wanted to get back to more aggressive guitar tones and like more to take back in more of the punk rock vibe. And I mean, we joke about it now. We're like, we're like a punk-ish band. Punk-ish.
Yeah. Punk-esque.
I mean, there's that element. But I'm a massive Bruce Springsteen fan. I think that influence is definitely coming through now as well too.
That's good. I mean, that what's the band that it's a 58 Sound or 57 Sound? What was the band that did that album?
Gaslight Anthem.
Yeah, Gaslight Anthem. When I first heard them, I wasn't a fan. They kind of grew on me a little bit.
Right.
But I love that. I love that album, man. Like that album, I crank quite a bit now, and it obviously has that Springsteen-ish kind of sound to it. But I don't know why it took so long for me to like get into that. But they really are. They're a great band. And that album, specifically is like definitely one of my favorites. Like I crank it quite a bit actually. So.
Yeah, that album rips, man. And I love how they got kind of like a vintage tone to the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's definitely that Springsteen nod in there because I mean, Jersey Boys got to stick together. I
absolutely.
guess. But,
just his vocal delivery on a lot of stuff is very reminding me of Bruce Springsteen. But that's cool. Like I band. I mean, it's punk rock, it's country. I mean, I'm a tattooer. I steal everything. Trust me, So I think it's cool when like I hear bands actually putting out their influence on album or live or whatever. Like I don't have an issue with some people like, oh, they're just ripping off so and so. It's like, well,
everybody's
fucking what, dude?
Everybody's ripping off Chuck Berry if you're playing rock
exactly.
and roll. So.
They're all ripping off Little Richard, and you know it. So it's like just enjoy the fact that they're like paying respect to their like the bands they grew up listening to. You know what I mean? It's like whether you copy them verbatim or just you can just hear the influence. I respect the shit out of that. So I dig that album. Yeah,
and we're doing a cover of Atlantic City in our show now, and so I'm being very blatant about it.
Yeah, dude. Like, why the fuck not, man?
Man, there's so many good bands like around that general type of music. Like when American Aquarium first came out, I was just into it wasn't what I was into.
Right.
And then revisited it several years later. It's like, why didn't I fucking like this now? I think
it has a lot to do with some age. Like I think as you age a little bit, you start getting back to like, let's pay respect for Wayne Kramer, who just passed away recently. Like even a band like the MC5, I wasn't into the MC5 in the 80s. I was listening to fucking MDC and Black Flag and like DOA and shit. That's what I want. And then it was like you got a little older and you're like, oh, these guys influenced all this shit. And then that influenced all this shit. So it's you kind of go backwards a little bit. And I think just with age, like you're something like, yeah, it's all right. And then a couple years later, you're like, fuck, this album is fucking great, man. Like, I think it just comes with age, a little bit wisdom. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was younger and like, finding records, we were all told we were supposed to like kick out the jams, that record. And like that record didn't really do much for me until I got older.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I mean,
now it's a staple.
I like the fact that their first album, they put out a live album.
Yeah.
Their first record they put out, like, fuck it, let's just do it live. But it's good because you can actually capture really what those guys sounded like. You know what I mean? Like, as a live band. And their other albums are great too. High Times and Back in the USA. I mean, those are great because there's great songs on there. But yeah, that Kick Out the Jams, it's good because it's really raw. And it's like, it's not perfectly polished and everything like that, but it's fucking raw as shit. And that's definitely one of my favorite albums to this day, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know why I never really caught on, but like now I'm listening to it. And would that come out in like 68 or something?
68, 69. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that, that they said motherfucker in that song, like, I was like, that's cool as shit. And like, why wasn't I jamming that much earlier,
I mean, those guys were like, even their political views, they paid the price for that shit. Like,
definitely.
They played at the Democratic National Convention as a protest band. They were the only fucking band that showed up and played. All the other bands totally pussed out. And they showed up like, fuck it, we're playing. And they got their asses beat by the cops. I mean, they were like,
I'm sure.
They paid the price for being themselves. And you just got to respect. I mean, that's punk rock, man. You know, it's like, like that. You got to admit, like, that is punk rock for sure. So
I had the pleasure of, I did get to have one interaction with Wayne Kramer, and it was actually in Belgium at that Shock Festival I was just talking about.
Very cool.
They were doing that MC50 situation, and I don't remember who all was playing in that band, but I know Kim Thale from Soundgarden was playing guitar in that, and we saw them backstage and stuff, and Wayne looked great then. This was probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
And but after the gig, we pulled up at the hotel, and we were all getting out of the van or whatever from the runner, and Kim Thale's standing outside smoking a cigarette, and he's like, Horton Heat, because the Soundgarden tours in the 90s and stuff, and so I'm like, hello, Kim Thale from Soundgarden. And so, like, ended up like, let's go inside and have some drinks and stuff. And I'm like, yes, Kim Thale, I will do shots with you.
And you Chris Farley him for the next hour? Like,
Yeah.
Remember when you made that album that was really cool?
That was cool.
That was cool.
That was awesome.
It's weird. It's weird when you meet these guys that you grew up listening to, and then you, like I said, I did that GBH tour, and I grew up listening to those guys. I remember looking at their album covers and being like, I want to look like that. I want leather and spikes and big hair and fucking, like, you know, boots and spurs and all that shit. So I did a tour with them. It was like a 2-month tour. 2-month tour. And the beginning of it, I'm like, oh, hey, Colin, what's up? Hey, and then by the middle of the tour, hey, what's up, motherfucker? Like, you're like homies with them. You're like, hey, and I'm still good friends with this to this day, but it's just a weird feeling of like, because you don't want to feel like starstruck, but you are in a way, man. Because it's like, I grew up listening to you. You know, you're on some of my favorite fucking albums, man. So I get that. I totally get that feeling of like, hey, yeah, let's go have drinks, dude. Like,
It's an interesting thing, you know, being on the road with people, though, because, like, you really don't have any other choice but for, you know, acquaintances to become friends and friends to become family, you know, because you're stuck out there together. It's either you're going to love each other and you're going to be, you know, lifelong friends, or you're going to be like, fuck that guy, I hope I never see him again. You know?
Or not.
There's no real middle ground there.
No.
Yeah, it's funny. Is it even now? You know, I'm 55 now, and about 5 or 6 years ago, when Gorilla Biscuits came through, a call came out, and there's not a lot of crossover with trumpet players who are into punk rock,
right?
But I happened to be one, so there was a call out to do. They always do that trumpet intro before their first song. Yeah. So somebody messaged me, hey, you're interested in doing this? Is like, yeah, definitely. That'd be fucking badass. Like, I listened to that when it first came out.
Yeah, dude.
80s.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden my phone rings a couple days later, and it was Walt Schreifels from Gorilla Biscuits. And he's like, hey, this is Walt. And heard you want to do the trumpet thing. Yeah, and he gave me all the details and stuff, and then met him at the show, and it was the same thing. He's like, you're Walt Schreifels?
Hey, Walt, what's up,
hey.
dude?
And then when it was all done, you know, did the trumpet intro and watched from side stage and all that stuff. And then when they were done, I was kind of packing up my little bit of shit to leave, and they're like, hey, we're going to go grab a bite. You want to hang out? And I'm like, okay, Walt Schreifels. Hang out with you. And by the end of dinner, it was fine. Like, I was acting normal again, but it's like, Jesus Christ, man, I'm 50 years old, and I'm acting like I'm 12.
It's just a thing, man. So I remember one time, this might have been like MySpace days or whatever, or maybe it was Facebook, I don't remember, but Jack Grisham from TSOL I guess he was in Dallas, and he just made a post. It was just like, hey, I'm in Dallas, man. I'm here for a couple days. Anybody wants to go grab a bite or something like that? And I'm just like, no shit. So I sent him a message like, hey, here's my number, man. You know, if you want to go grab a bite, you know. So like 20 minutes later, the phone rings. It was a California number, and I'm like, no fucking way. And I answer, I'm like, hello. He goes, hey, it's Jack Grisham, dude. I'm just like, hi. Like, I'm like, first of all, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what are you doing in Dallas? I was like, is TSOL playing? And he's like, no. He's a counselor. He's been in recovery for shit since '89, and I think he does a lot of stuff, but I think counseling is one of the main things he does. He's like, no, man. He goes, I'm in Dallas. I'm like talking to people or something like that. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you know, people that are like fucked, man. I mean, he's got a way with words. And even though I was like, all right, cool. But even to this day, like, I still interact with him online and even message like, hey, Jack, I've asked him to do this show. He said he would totally do the show too. He's, again, somebody grew up listening to, and they end up just being like, just this dude, this normal guy, you know, like you've kind of put on this pedestal for so many years, but it turns out like, oh, you're just a normal fucking dude. Cool, man.
Yeah,
like,
you're just another
talk
dude.
Shit, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You guys, you know, you guys released a single last year, and Revelators did. Do you have an album, a full album coming behind that this year, or what's in the works with recording?
Yeah, I've got about 5 songs in the studio that I've been working on. In fact, I go in Monday and Tuesday to try and wrap those up as much as I can. But yeah, we're gonna continue to release singles until until I have enough to recorded music to put out.
That seems to be
12-inch.
that seems to
That's
be
the
kind
thing
of
now.
the thing. Like it's kind of because of streaming services and stuff like that. It's kind of reverted back to the single. Like
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with like the attention span of the consumer is so
the
short
non-attention
now.
span. The
Yeah,
non-attention
exactly.
span, dude.
Yeah, you release an album, sort of. It's just one song at a time.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like an EP or something like that. I've noticed a couple years back, and we were when I was in another band, we were releasing stuff. We were talking about, and they were like, "Well, release one song at a time, and then like a month later, 2 months later, another song. Sometimes 3 or 4 months later." But I've noticed that. I've noticed a lot of bands that do that now. And in a way, it's kind of cool in a way. You know what I mean? It's like because the single comes out and you're ready for the new single to come out, and it's just it gets you can hype it up a little bit more. Putting out 10, 12, 13 songs. I mean, you have to sit through the album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like when you kind of get your hopes up like each song at a time. I think you're right. I think the attention span is just totally fucked with people now. And that's adults too, not just kids.
Sure, and it bums me out because I we all grew up in like wanting to get the album and read the liner notes and look at the artwork and all that, and now it's like, well, now I've got to do this, but luckily like the other guys are on the same page, and so like we're putting out different art with everything that we do, and like mean every show we do a show poster for every single show that we play, and so it's totally different, and so like we're selling those at the merch table and stuff, and like just to bring it back in the little bit we can, just getting the art back into the whole situation.
Yeah,
you do that with John Jeter. Do you do that with art wise? Is that you kind of go with a more Americana style like?
Yeah, my bass player Brandon Catley's he's he does all the artwork for us, and so it's all pretty consistent, but he's got his own kind of style going on, and it's pretty rad. So like every show that we do, he does a poster for, and it's all ink drawings and stuff, and so he does everything by hand, and it's he puts a lot of effort into it.
I miss all those old Coop posters and like all the show posters that like. I miss all that stuff, man. Like those are all the screen printed posters that used to come out for the shows.
I kind of like semi plagiarize shit because back in the rockabilly band days in the early 2000s, I would go to fucking Half Price Books and look for like old fucking like dime store novels,
right?
And then scan them, and then erase parts of it, and put the band info. So like I've got this stack of posters from back then.
I love that,
and it's all old those cheap like those 25-cent.
But that's
books, and then make them into a poster because I can't draw for shit.
Right?
So I can make letters though.
Yeah, right. Don't worry, I'm a tattooer and I can't draw for shit either. So,
so you guys, you've got your show at Three Links coming up. Have you booked a tour after you get back from the tour with Reverend, or what's going on with live music for Jonathan Jeter this year?
No, there's no tours really in the books. It's still just a bunch of regional one-offs. We're gonna do. We got that show next Thursday. Then I know that we're playing again Friday. But then we don't play again until mid-April. Delta Bombers are coming through town. Those are my dudes. So they put us on that one with them, and so that'll be the next time we play locally.
Have you guys? How's the reception for you guys regionally? You guys, are you hitting Oklahoma as well, or just?
Yeah. We've done Tulsa so far, but there's we're gonna kind of branch out more this year to try and get out on the road more. But we played Mercury Lounge. That place is tried and true, and
I love
that went. I love that place.
Mercury.
It was a much bigger response and turnout than I could have ever imagined. And,
that's great, man.
Yeah, everywhere we go, it's like nobody knows who the fuck we are, but like for one reason or another, people are coming out, and like if they came out to see another band, we're just trying to turn one person on at a time,
Yeah, just doing it, just being a band, just doing your stuff and showing your songs, showcasing your songs and your band and your music. Like that's, like I said, from the old days, like when I was in Speed Dealer, we just hopped in a van and had a makeshift tour and were gone for like 2 months, like a month or two. Like, you know, some shows fell through, band breaks down, you know, band members fighting. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's all part of it. You know what I mean? But I would say at this stage, you've probably done all that shit, so you kind of know the do's and not to do like list. You know what I mean? On like how to avoid a lot of that stuff. So I think that's great.
I'm much more. I'm much less fun probably on the road now than I was, 20 years ago.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Well, fun looks different now. Like I joke with Jimbo all the time. I'm like, the drugs look very different now, man. It's like Advil,
right?
And it's Advil
8 hours
and
of
like,
sleep,
and Tiger Bomb and stuff.
Yes.
I'm getting wild.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago, I did a tour with a ska band playing trumpet.
Okay.
And so 7 fucking people in the band. And back in the day, that would have been 7 people and 1 hotel room.
Oh yes.
And this time it was 7 people plus merch guy, TM,
right.
So 8 people. So that's 4 hotel rooms now. So we lost money on the tour, but I'm not sleeping on the floor. I'm old now.
What's a hotel room? I just remember a couch and a floor, dude, or a van.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the van was some of the speed dealer Oreo speed dealer tours. They were great. I had a good time. There was a lot of substance abuse issues with me going on in the band, but I had a lot of fun doing that stuff. Just get in a van and just going. You just go. Like you just take the fuck off and let's see what happens. Let's see if people like our band or not.
It's a very freeing thing, like you're out there, sailing the road, man. Like
you just
basically
you're learning life lessons on that road too. I mean, not just for yourself, but even the people you're with and just the people you encounter in every city. Played in front of 3 people, I've played in front of 3,000 people. You know what I mean? It's like I was always taught, like, no matter what, you fucking give it 150% every fucking show. It doesn't matter. If these 3 people are here to see, they are here to fucking see you. So give it your all and do your fucking best. Like, so.
Exactly. You owe them that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And it's a lot of, we'll definitely get some tour stories on this podcast at some point. But yeah, I agree with that. It's just freedom, just to be out on the road and like, you don't even have enough time to see the fucking city.
No.
You have to find, first of all, you got to find the club.
Yeah.
And this is before Google Maps, kids.
Right.
You're like folding this big or trying to fold this big map. Like, I remember being broken down in Baltimore for like 3 days. Baltimore.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes, I know. It was terrible.
Or when you were trying to like find it in a Maps Go, you're like, okay, J40. Okay. There we are.
Kids will have to look that up. They'll have to Google that to see what the fuck that's all about. What's J40? It's just Baltimore. Just take it.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'd lived in Baltimore for 6 months.
Boy.
It was going to be a permanent move. I'd already lived here for 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And then got a job offer and was foolish enough to take it. And it was about 2 weeks after I got there. I was like, I really fucked up.
They got good cheesesteaks there, though. The Philly cheesesteaks are really good.
Yeah.
Can't deny that.
So Jonathan, is there anything you want to plug before we sign off? Social media or your shows coming up or anything like that?
Just that show at 3 Links, man. Next Thursday with Messer Chups and J. Isaiah Evans and the Boss Tweeds.
Heck yeah.
It's gonna be a good one. You can find us on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, all that life-sucking shit.
Right.
The necessary evil.
It is a necessary evil, man.
Yeah.
Well, man, we really appreciate you joining us.
Guys, it's been really fun.
Dude, this thing's in its infancy, so we're just figuring it out as we go too. But that we want to talk to musicians and artists and give people a platform and just have people listen to a conversation instead of a list of 40 questions. So we appreciate you rolling with the punches with us today for sure, man.
Absolutely, fellas.
Pleasure talking to you, homie.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
All right, brother. All right,
later.
It's hard on this mountain this time of year. Who am I kidding? It's life and death out here. when it's hard for you, and everyone's lucky, and it's hard for you to get along. When it's hard for you growing up in eastern Kentucky, and it's hard for you among the mountains and the rain. Daddy dug coal in the mines nearly hours life, and my mama wonders if he'd come home alive. And my sister come over and help me when she could. It don't make much difference now, which I never understood. When it's hard for you, and everyone's lucky, it's hard for you to get along. When it's hard for you growing up in eastern Kentucky, it's hard for you among the mountains and the rain. It's hard on this mountain this time of year.